I just got back from Luther Heights Bible Camp. I'm one of the lucky few this summer who has been able to see that place, so beloved to so many of you. I needed a break, needed to get away, needed to rest and pray. And Kelly and her skeleton staff were kind enough to make space for this pastor's personal retreat. This Sunday's gospel text is from the 14th chapter of Matthew. The story starts with a lonely, tired Jesus going on retreat. When Jesus heard this, Matthew says, he withdrew from there in a boat to a deserted place by himself. What Jesus heard was that King Herod had murdered John the Baptist. So maybe Jesus needed some time to think. If King Herod was murdering prophets of God like John, then what would he do with Jesus if he caught him? Or maybe he just needed time to grieve. John was his cousin, after all. John, the only one who really seemed to get Jesus. Or maybe Jesus just needed to rest. Maybe he was just tired, worn out by needy people and their unending troubles and pains, and people wanting miracles and wonders and no new taxes. But when the crowds heard it, they followed him, on foot from the towns. And when he went ashore, he saw a great crowd. His retreat is ruined. And he had compassion for them and cured their sick. This is one of those rare Jesus stories where there's no preaching at all. Just mercy, just compassion and healing, and Christ loving and holding and touching us. When it was evening, the disciples said to him, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is now late. Send the crowds away so that they may go into the villages and buy food for themselves." It's been a long day, Jesus. It's been a long road to follow you. It's been a long pandemic, and we're sick and tired of it. Send them away. Jesus, give it a rest. It has been a long 6 or 8 months, hasn't it? Aren't you tired of this? Don't you want your summer back, your life back, your economy back? What are we supposed to do with millions unemployed, and now maybe millions who can't even pay the rent or buy groceries? Jesus looks at his disciples and says, "You give them something to eat. You do something." It might be important to remember that according to Jesus, when this life is over, the question you'll be asked is not going to be, how did you vote on election day? Or, which political party did you belong to? Or, did you wear a mask? And certainly not, did you pack a gun? Or, which side of which social issue were you on? The question will simply be, when I was hungry, did you feed me? Feeding has always been a Christian's work. From the very beginning, the church was serving meals and providing health care and medicine and clinics and shelter and clothing or a bag of groceries or rent money or something. We've been surprisingly good at it at times, and sometimes not. But it has always been the kind of work Christ gives us. You give them something to eat. A reporter once asked the Dalai Lama, what was the answer to all the poverty in the world? And he answered with just one word. Sharing, he said. That's the answer. Sharing. Mother Teresa's answer might have been even better. God did not create poverty, she said. People did, when they decided not to share. We have nothing here but 5 loaves and 2 fish. I once heard Jim Barkley, the president of Lutheran Family Services of Colorado, ask, if I'm a follower of Jesus, why, when I feel I have given so much, do I find I have so much left over? Bring them to me, Jesus says. And taking the 5 loaves and 2 fish, Jesus looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And all ate and were filled, and they took up what was left over of the broken pieces, 12 baskets full. All they really needed was something to snack on, something to keep their stomachs from growling until they could get back to their own cupboards again. But Jesus made a full meal. Jesus made seconds until they couldn't eat another bite. Jesus made leftovers. Jesus made the disciples wish for Tupperware. Bring me what you have, Jesus says. We've got some sharing to do. And then, as if blessing and breaking and sharing was a joy, and as if overflowing grace was just part of the fun of being the Creator and Lord of heaven and earth, Jesus sets a table and bids us come and eat with the hungry and the poor. These days we drag our bedraggled souls to Jesus, our pandemic weariness and broken dreams, our tired feet and heartbreaks and worries about tomorrow. We demand our liberty, the freedom to do as we please, without regard for our neighbor. We are tired. We need a rest. We want our lives back. It's a deserted kind of place that we're in. We are as lonely and sad and frightened as Jesus, as sorrowful and tired. And God, we want to give it a rest. What should our prayer be in times like these? Perhaps we should pray to be the compassion of Jesus to our neighbors and to our world. Bring them to me, Jesus says. I spent a lot of time in prayer this weekend. I brought a lot of stuff to Jesus, and I have to admit, it was all just dry crust and fish bones. God, transform my needs into compassion for others. Because I found out that Pope Francis was right when he said, first you pray for the poor, then you feed them. That's how prayer works. So I'm ready to be back. I hope you are too. I hope you're ready to discover that compassion is a joy, that loving your neighbor is what freedom is for, and overflowing grace is just part of the fun of following Jesus. Go in peace. Serve the Lord. Feed the hungry. Remember the poor. And thanks be to God.